Hey everyone, and welcome! Today we're going to take a little journey, a tour through the life of a real American hero. She was someone who looked at the world, saw it wasn't quite right, and decided to use her voice to change it. So, let's get started. Seriously, think about it for a second. Maybe a rule in a game or something at school. A rule that just felt wrong. It's a pretty frustrating feeling, right? Well, the person we're talking about today, she felt that exact same way. A lot. And she decided she was going to do something about it.
Yep, our tour is all about the one and only Susan B. Anthony. She didn't just get annoyed by unfair rules, she made it her life's mission to challenge them. And believe me, her courage made a massive difference for millions and millions of people.
Okay, our first stop takes us way back to when she was just a kid. It all started in a place you probably know pretty well, a classroom. And it was a really unfair math lesson that lit a fire inside her that, well, it would never go out.
So, Susan was born way back in 1820. She grew up in a Quaker family, and this is super important because Quakers had this deep belief that everyone was equal. From the time she was little, she was taught that men and women should be treated exactly the same. They also believed that slavery was completely and totally wrong. So for her, fighting for women's rights and fighting against slavery were all part of the same big idea: every single person deserves to be free and have a say.
So get this. Young Susan loved school, especially math. But one day, the teacher just refused to teach her long division. And his reason? Because she was a girl. He literally said it was something girls just didn't need to know. Can you even imagine that? This was one of the first times Susan ran headfirst into an unfair rule, and it really stuck with her.
As Susan grew up and got older, she started to realize that the unfairness she saw in that math class, well, it wasn't just a one-time thing. Not at all. It followed her right into her very first job.
Susan actually became a teacher. It was one of the only jobs women could really have back then. But she very quickly found out about another unfair rule. I mean, just look at this chart. It pretty much says it all. For doing the exact same job, teaching the exact same things, the men were paid way more than she was. And that was it. That was the last straw. Susan knew that just being quiet and accepting it wasn't going to fix anything. So she started to speak out. This was the moment she really found her voice and began her life's work, becoming a powerful campaigner for equality for everybody. All right, now we're getting to the main event, the central challenge of her entire life. This was the biggest, the toughest, and the most important fight that Susan B. Anthony would ever take on. She poured all of her energy into the fight for something called suffrage. It might sound like a fancy word, but all it means is the right to vote in elections. Simple, right? But back then, it was a right that was denied to half the entire country.
At the time, pretty much everyone just accepted that voting was for men. Period. The idea was that women just shouldn't be involved in politics. But Susan, she saw things completely differently. Her argument was simple. Laws affect everyone, so women absolutely deserve a voice in the government that's making those laws. For her, it wasn't a privilege, it was a basic right. So after years and years of giving speeches and campaigning, Susan decided that talking just wasn't enough anymore. In 1872, she did something incredibly brave and totally illegal. She walked right into a polling station and she cast her vote for president.
And what happened next just shows you how committed she was. As you can see, she was arrested almost immediately for breaking the law. They put her on trial, found her guilty, and told her she had to pay a $100 fine, which was a ton of money back then. But, and this is the best part, she refused. She stood up in court and said she would not pay a single dollar because the law itself was wrong.
And that brings us to the final stop on our tour. Let's take a look at what all this courage and all this hard work actually led to. Because even though Susan faced failure after failure, her work created a legacy that would change America for good.
Take a look at this timeline. It really tells the whole story. She's arrested in 1872. Then, in 1906, she passes away, never having the legal right to vote herself. It seems like a sad ending, right? But look, just 14 years after she died, in 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed. Women finally got the right to vote. Her fight did matter.
It was her persistence, her bravery, her absolute refusal to give up that paved the way for that huge victory. She gave her entire life to this cause, and because of what she did, millions of women who came after her finally got their voice in our democracy.
And that really gets to the heart of her story, and it's captured perfectly by this idea.
Just one person, a single voice, if it's used for what's right over and over again, can create a change so big that it echoes through history.
So, as we finish our tour of Susan B. Anthony's incredible life, I want to leave you with this question to think about. When you see something that's unfair, something in your world that needs to change, what would you use your voice for?